There we are. Okay. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. After a quick break. Next, we've got Councillor Jenkins, please. Could you turn your cameras on if you're virtual, please? Councillor Jenkins, have we got a question? Oh, okay. I did say 10 minutes, didn't I? He's not there. Well, he's the only only person with his hand up. Councillor Ian Williams jumped in.
You have to indulge me again, then.
He looks like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk around the new college coming into Bridgend Town Centre. There's going to be, I think, approximately 200 staff, over 1,000 pupils, 39 parking spaces. Since 2016, Bridgend Town has lost 500 parking spaces between the Rue and the, now it's going to be part of the college multi-storey car park. Saturday was the Christmas light switch on. People couldn't park. The car parks were all full. So it does happen that there is no overspill anymore. There is no room for people to park. This wouldn't have happened on Saturday. I think it's essential that we look...
Point of order. What's that to do with today's scrutiny report?
It's in here. Parking. Parking to do with the active travel, because the active travel, you were saying everyone is going to arrive by either train, bus...
Okay, we'll indulge you. You did say to indulge you. Fire the question here. Now, so what is the question?
Everyone's going to arrive by train or bus because there's going to be an exit from the railway station onto Tremaines Road.
Yeah.
People that catch buses, cycle because of active travel. We know that's not going to happen. You know, it's definitely going to have an impact on car parking in Bridgend. We need to look at de-pedestrianising in Bridgend and having strategic 1 hour parking spots all the way around Dunraven Place, Market Street and Derwin Road.
And this is to accommodate these students and staff and...
well, to accommodate the people who would be normally parking in the car parks. People with mobility issues, elderly people, like myself.
What do you think Councillor Williams is saying?
I really think we should be looking at that now.
But go on.
So was referred to page 11, the Bridgend Town Centre access enhancements. Yeah?
Section about Bridgend College coming in.
You've got a page number here or a bullet point.
Bridgend Town Centre access enhancements. Yeah.
Yes. What John? Yes, that John. It's that one, John. Yeah. 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 Go on, John. I think Jonathan first.
Yeah, the issues of car parking associated with the college, that was covered extensively when planning permission was granted for that project that was there. I'm not going to go any further on that because that was dealt with at that particular time. The project that we've identified in this document is to look at potential link from the station direct to the college site. That's part of the access enhancements that we're looking at.
Is that the Tremaines Road you referred to in the early meeting, Ian? Is that what that is?
Yes, it is. But that's surmising that everyone is going to use active travel and travel by train or bus. If they bring cars, we've got serious problems because the car parks will be full and people who want to shop will have nowhere to park.
Okay. Well, the link that we're looking at is from the station, directly from the station to Cheapside. That's the link that we're looking at. There's a separate project. There's also looking at the station enhancements itself, and that's another project which is more regeneration led, and Transport for Wales are looking into that as well. But it is a transport project.
is the link to this college at the rear of the station, or the
Yes,
front? It's
that's the idea, yeah.
It's a rear exit,
Yeah.
and they go that way, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it cuts through where the British Telecom land is at the
Oh, I
moment.
know, yeah. Okay.
Well, that's been a long-standing project. That's been in LDPs and development plans for a number of years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so it's been dealt with in the planning process apparently, so there's no more to say on that.
But with the amount of students and staff that are going to be in that college, there is going to be people using the car parks, and the car parks can't cope. So my question is, when are we going to de-pedestrianise Bridgend Town Centre, Dunraven Place, Queen Street, Dunraven Place, Market Street, and have 1 hour parking spots around there to help accommodate the people who don't use active travel coming to use Bridgend College?
Okay. Don't
There was
don't
there was a consultation done in 2016, which was passed by Cabinet to be.
Ian, I don't stop you. The de-pedestriation, or whatever it's called, is not part of this. We can't really go into any major discussion on that this evening, unfortunately. It's I don't know. It's assuming that we're assuming that people won't use the active travel, aren't we? You know, there's a lot of assumptions going on here. We don't know that for certain, do we? For all we know, they could all come by train and bus and ride. We don't know, do we?
But on the other hand, they might all come by car.
They may well do, but I don't think tonight's night. I don't think tonight's night to discuss that one, Ian. All right, thanks. I'm going to move on to Councillor Jenkins. We couldn't get hold of you earlier. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Like Arnie said, I'm back.
You were first after the break, and you must have been a little bit back. Yeah.
Well, I stop to say I'm more confused than ever now, and I have to support my other colleagues. I thought we were here initially to look at and prioritise and probably give advice or see where we're going, and to quantify some of the actions that are laid out in this particular plan. Because I have here the transport plan for Wales Transport Strategy 221. Quite frightening, actually. But it's based around, I think people are getting confused that the active travel was to encompass all forms of travel. But the emphasis seems to be, and by stealth, that they believe, those in Cardiff Bay believe that everybody's fit and active will either walk or get on a push bike, which is absolutely crazy. And that's based probably upon the vast majority of people, not the vast majority, sorry, the majority of people who use them for leisure. They don't use them for work. And as you're aware, that we in the Slimby Valley now have been terribly served by the forms of public transport, that being the bus and that being also the train. Transport for Wales is failing us badly, particularly on trains, where they terminate in a Tondy or not running at all. Yesterday, 10:15, didn't turn up with no explanation whatsoever. Those that are travelling to work have now given up jobs, students, youngsters. They work in the Pines. The Pines is open till 8 and 9 o'clock, and they can't get transport home. They're too young to afford their own kind of vehicle, and they don't have other people to pick them up, etc.
How is this relating to the report? Now we know that
Well,
we all quite per se with all the issues in the Slimby Valley.
I'm saying,
how would you gonna?
You've allowed people to talk about bus transport, and I'm talking about public services, public transport, which should be incumbent. Quaco spoke elegantly there for quite a long time, but then lost me, because he said everything and said nothing. Over 15 years or more, we've been waiting for our community route to be extended down to Llangynnon and further afield. But the people that are using that, as I said again, will be for leisure as opposed for work. And work is priority right at the moment.
As I said to Ian, Councillor Williams earlier, we can't assume this, can we? We don't know, do we? You know, you may well be right, but we can't just say that nobody uses it for work. We don't know that, do we?
Of course we know that. At the end of the day, probably in 20 or 30 years, if you take all forms of transport away, the only form of transport will be Shanks's pony. And so they're forcing you into a system that they believe may well be right. And we talk about wealth and well-being. There's another now. This strategy and plan is creating another form of administration at a cost, same as the Health and Wellbeing Act, when 90% of that should be common sense. Everybody we need to achieve in something of that, but I'm digressing there. And I understand that we're listening, or supposed to listen to those that are down in the Welsh Government there at the moment, but they're failing to see the broader aspects of everything. They want growth. How can you have growth and without the transport to sustain it and support it? Again, we haven't. Nobody told me here out of anything that's in the strategy how they prioritised it and why they prioritised it.
We didn't.
Right? Has anybody gone out and showed me facts and figures? 10,000 people will be using this particular area route if we put it there. No, you haven't qualified it. And people don't want that. They want things that are going to happen and allow them at the moment. Health, for instance, climate change, pollution. I can tell you that half a dozen families here, they're all retired.
Phil.
Right, hang on a minute now.
No.
Health,
I have to ask a question.
pollution. The government wanted to stop pollution by taking cars off the road. They did their bit by taking the cars off the road by going on buses. Right? They used to go to 3 or 4 journeys a week out for the day on a bus, not taking the car, because they had good bus links and bus services. They haven't stopped doing that now, but they've just jumped back in the car to go to Swansea or down to Mumbles or even further afield, even travel to Porthcawl. I can't see the logic in all of this. And all I would say that the Llanvi Valley is poorly served by all forms of transport. And they need, this county needs to do all it possibly can to alleviate that problem. People have lost jobs because of the transport situation. Active travel, they can't even be active because they can't get about. And they can't get further afield on a route that's not there. And, you know, let's be logical. I'm 70 odd years old, man. When I want to get on a push bike and cycle to Porthcawl, would I devil? No. No, thanks very much. Maybe a lovely sunny afternoon, I fancy that. But coming back, I'd be shattered. I wouldn't entertain it.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
But I just want to make a point that we need to be looking at better services to the links, the Garrow Valley, the Ogmore Valley, proper links, not going out for a leisurely walk or jumping on a bike.
Thank you.
And at the moment, if you go in the Llanvi Valley, you writ off your own bike or off the walkway because of the.
Councillor Pratt, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I mean, I'm looking at all this stuff. I just wondered whether at a local level, as national policy changes, how quickly or does the local authority adapt to those changes? I'm looking at the rapid bus infrastructure, for example, as one. I will assume that this strategy, for a word, was created before the 20-mile-an-hour law came in. So are these easily adaptable to changes? You know, because obviously we've got the Welsh Government that doesn't want to build roads anymore. We're slowing our traffic down, which includes buses. So are these adaptable? How easily are they adaptable, or are they solid in their, well, this is what we had before, it's not our fault, the Welsh Government have changed their mind? Thank you, Chair.
Go on then, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. It's a good point, and I think we knew about 20-mile-an-hour speed limits were coming in for some time, and the bus infrastructure, rapid bus infrastructure, it's not necessarily going to be impacted by that particular policy coming in. The idea is to give priorities to buses and to improve bus service and information available to bus services. So it shouldn't be impacted by that particular particular piece of legislation coming into effect. The idea is to make it easier for people to catch buses, make the buses maybe a slightly different operating model, maybe give them priority at certain junctions, and to speed up the use of buses in certain areas, and that's across the county borough, but it's probably more relevant to areas that are not served by any other means of public transport. Well, of course, any particular project is going to be impacted on by changes in legislation, by changes in national policy, and that's why this report is not a finite set of projects. I mentioned at the start of this meeting that we will be bringing a further report to Cabinet in due course, and we will be reviewing these projects and whether projects need to be stayed on the list of projects or whether they need to be replaced by other ones, and in light of changing circumstances and national policy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nora Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's been mentioned that BCBC doesn't fund any of these schemes. Can I ask where will the funding come from for any future maintenance of the schemes, especially how the local authority finds itself in at the moment financially? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, another very good point raised there, and very relevant. The active travel schemes, the maintenance of active travel routes is sort of subsumed into our highway maintenance budgets over a period of time. So they become part of the maintenance regime. Other projects, for example, the Metrolink, there will be a maintenance budget that will be associated with that particular facility, and that's what we're working out at the moment, how much that's going to actually cost and what's involved with that. And the relevant teams and departments within the authority are working on that now. But that would have to be a budget that would have to be made available for that facility to operate. But we knew this when we were given the funding to do it. It was something that you've been given the funding to build a facility, but the ongoing maintenance is going to be incumbent upon the authority, so it will have to be found.
Okay. Thank you. Hear that, Nora?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I did hear that, but I find that quite surprising because where will the money come from?
Yeah. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Yeah. Because obviously our budgets are getting cut, year on year, so it needs, and the maintenance costs grow, don't they, then, if we add in these tracks to them, so it's a difficult one. Right, I got two more hands up. Councillor Philip Jenkins, please.
Yeah, briefly, just to follow on from Councillor Clark, to be absolutely clear, and she raised a very valid point, which is obvious. So to be clear that any of this legislation that we adopt and bring forward under the active travel will have to be funded then by the community afterwards, after grants have been awarded to put them in place. Any maintenance and ongoing sustainability will fall upon the taxpayers of the county where they're implemented in. Is that absolutely right?
That's correct, yeah. That's what Jonathan... Don't suspend wants to come in. Go on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jenkins. It's a valid point. I mean, what we're talking about here are capital schemes, and it's grateful to have that funding. The revenue maintenance cost of most, if not all, capital schemes we have falls back to us as authority, build into our annual budget each year. We do have the option, I suppose, of not accepting a capital scheme if we don't think the revenues are in the future to maintain it. Hopefully that doesn't become the case, but really, yeah, it does fall back to this authority when it comes to the revenue funds for maintenance for whatever the project is, to find that within the budgets and allocate accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jenkins. Councillor Ian Williams, please.
Yeah, just to go back on what Councillor Clark has said. So the more active travel routes we put in by the way of cycle lanes and footpaths, the greater our maintenance costs are, which come out of the revenue budget. It appears to me that we have a totalitarian and dystopian society overseen by an individual who's foisting his agenda on people who really don't want it, when money could be spent in other ways to alleviate some of the travel problems we currently have, such as improving bus services, where they've cut the subsidies. There are parts of the Garrow, I think Ogmore Valley and Clinby Valley, where buses are no longer travelling and people are struggling. Yet they seem to insist on the active travel routes, as Councillor Jenkins said, where if you want to cycle, you've got to be reasonably fit. I'm lucky enough, I can still cycle, and I do. But active travel routes to places like Maesteg and anywhere up the valleys is great coming down, but you've also got to go back up. So, just an observation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Williams and Councillor Martin Williamson, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just maybe I'm the last one here, but on that point, and it's come late to us actually, but it's a good observation by Councillor Clark, is this paper, which I think is the cabinet paper, isn't it? But it's come to us for noting and a thorough going over. But Section 8, financial implications. A lot of talk of the capital, but nothing, no revenue implications on here. So, I mean, I would be mischievous and ask the cabinet member or the officer, what are the revenue implications? Were we successful in implementing the entirety of the active travel programme and indeed everything on here? But I won't do that. But I think it's an interesting observation and whether we should consider putting a revenue implication on papers of this nature going forward. Thanks.
John,
Very briefly, yeah. I mean, whatever scheme is introduced, there'll be some revenue maintenance on whatever the land. There may be a footpath already or a footway that's been upgraded. So it depends on the particular scheme, particular project. There may already be some revenue maintenance costs, but clearly the revenues maintenance cost will increase. It could decrease initially if we put in new infrastructure in, but it will increase over time. And that's something we have to take on board, well, each year as we do the revenue budget year, and the more difficult that's going to get. And as I say, it may get the point, and it may come sooner or later, that we don't accept any more capital schemes because we haven't got the facility to maintain them in the future.
Okay. Okay, I've got no further indications, so I'd like to thank the invitees for the attendance to answer the questions you've answered this evening. And you're go get warmed up, John. You're free to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So once John have departed, we'll go on to
even in the cold,
yeah.
Cold room, the chill.
We'll go on to conclusion and recommendations. Yeah, once we've done. Gonna 15 years drop it. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we're going on to conclusions and recommendations. Everybody, any suggestions? Councillor Martin Williams, if you wish to indicate.
Yeah, I mean, we did have a little discussion before the main meeting. I think Councillor Walter came up with what he thought a conclusion might be. Obviously, we didn't know at that point, but I think he's been proven right that what we are lacking is a coherent transport strategy that works for Bridgend County. That is, what we haven't got is it seems to me, is a comprehensive table of needs, a table of needs which is prioritised, and then solutions to those needs, and then once that's done, we go out and look for the funding, whether that's internal funding or external funding or a mix of both. And it seems to me, because we haven't got that, some of our guests this afternoon or this evening were struggling to answer, which I thought were simple questions, but perhaps some of them were framed deliberately to tease that out. And I think to me, fundamentally, we don't have that strategy and that ability to start with a need, and then a prioritisation of those needs, and ultimately leading towards a project to fix the problem. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mark. My understanding is a pot of money becomes available, and we can fit that money to a project. You know, depending on how much that amount is. You know, if it's 10 million, we look for a project we can do for 10 million. You know, obviously, we can't do the huge projects, but it's rather than the other way around. That's what you're saying, isn't it? You know, we haven't got a prioritised project for, just say, we just use Junction 36 as an example, say 40 million, for example, and we go looking for 40 million. We just see what's available and then fit it to whatever projects we got on the list.
That's exactly correct, Chair. And, you know, sometimes we need to be opportunists, and money will come available for things we haven't thought about. But we must surely need a comprehensive a strategy, but a comprehensive plan, you know, based on need.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Councillor Nora Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think we need to mention our grave concerns regarding maintenance if any of these projects go forward. I mean, you know, we've got to be clear. We can't maintain what we've got. We can't keep public footpaths open. You know, we just have not got the resources or basically the manpower, if you like. But certainly there is a huge concern regarding the maintenance of any future schemes coming on board.
Thank you, Nora. We call them on costs, don't we? That's a term they use.
I think the revenue costs.
Yeah, whatever we call it.
The more we do, the more the revenue costs are going to increase.
We got, the more maintenance it takes. But I'd say, as I said earlier, is the budget's reducing every year, so it doesn't do something wrong somewhere, isn't it? Doesn't add up in the end. Councillor Graham Walter, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I agree with both Councillor Martin Williams and Councillor Nora Clark. I think that the output from today, as I said before the meeting, needs to be some form of prioritised wish list, if you like, or more than a wish list, a prioritised list of things that we know we need to do to improve lives in the county borough. And they should be indicative revenue costs of supporting those projects if and when they become delivered. We used to have a saying in Porthcawl Town Council about having oven-ready projects on the shelf, so that if funding became available, you could pull them down and seek to get them funded. Now, you know, I've learned since then that it's not quite so easy in this authority, because some of the projects you've got to do feasibility studies before you can actually get to, you know, putting costs and things together. But even so, I don't think that would stop us from making a strong recommendation of taking that approach. And as has been said by everybody, indicative revenue costs beside each project. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Colin Davis, please.
Thanks, Chair. Just to reiterate something I said earlier on, you know, at the end of the day, the officers can only apply for the grants that are available. The wiggle room is very, very small. So, you know, this committee has criticised this report for being a wish list. What do? Create another wish list? So, you know, I think a different approach is required. You know, there's things we should be doing in terms of safety, and the things we'd like to do. And I think perhaps any future plan should reflect those two kind of streams. Because look, to be fair, there is no money out there. Why isn't there any money out there? That's a different ballgame. But, you know, to be fair to officers, they've highlighted that in the report. They only apply for certain things because they know the funding will come on the back of those things. So any future reports should reflect that. And I think it's unfair to ask us as a committee to say to officers, go back to drawing board and come up with things, another wish list, if you like. Fair enough talking about the rationale behind certain things, but let's be aware of the limitations that were highlighted in the report. Let's acknowledge that. Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Phil Jenkins, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, just to reiterate, and as a previous councillor said, Councillor David said, before officers apply, unless it becomes mandatory, and they are mandatory, you know, and instructed to put it on a statutory duty, we will have to first prioritise or ascertain, and I hope they would have done that, to see if it is of benefit first. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting between us all, I think we need to get back to our basics and put the house in order first without taking on other projects whilst having to cut back on the other basics just to comply with possibly a whim and or something that is not really 100% necessary at this time. And that's, I think, how we would word that so that they be mindful of that fact. And unless they mandatory, what's the proper word, unless they're instructed they have to do something, I would be mindful at the moment, given the financial constraints placed upon us all, that they don't move very fast on any of these projects at the moment. That's
Okay.
my view.
Thank you very much. I've got Quaco's hand is still up. Quaco, you should have left the meeting now, sir.
Oh, sorry.
I realise you're still in. We discussing the recommendations now.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I didn't notice you still in here, to be honest. Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, yes, I agree with Councillor Clark. Obviously, we build things, it needs to be maintained. I mean, that's a bun fight in itself. You know, how long things break down, how long they can maintain for. So yeah, that's always something that needs to be looked at before we look into a project. But I mean, I think it's been summed up pretty well in this meeting that we will bid for whatever money is available, and that money is determined by Welsh Government, basically in a nutshell. I mean, it seems to be, if you want to build a train station, apart from Bracklair, there's money for it left, right, and centre. If you want to build a bus stop, it's or find a bus route, that's a lot more difficult. If you want to find an active travel route, they'll literally throw money at you, to the extent that it might maybe built of gold. But I think listening today, I think the system's broken. But you know, it's let's all bid for money and see what happens. But this isn't our level. This needs to be at Welsh Government, or at least in Welsh Parliament, of is this system working? Other than Councillor Clark's, you know, obviously when we build projects, we need to maintain them. I struggle to find any sort of recommendation, because I listen to what Councillor Walters says. Yes, you know, find priorities, this, that, and the other, but it's all predicated on finding the budget for it, which comes from a higher source. And unless it comes in, like Jonathan said it really well, like, I can prioritise them if you want me to, but it's all depends on when they, or if they release the finances. So we are where we are, where it is somewhat, I'll go back to it, we're a tombola. Here's some money, put your hand in and see what you come out with. And that's pretty much the system we've got. I think it's wrong, but I'm not elected to that level to change it. So there we are.
Councillor Pratt, I will remind you, about, you just mentioned about buses. Do you have a £4 million bus stop being built in Porthcawl? Okay. Councillor Martin Williams, are we coming to the end of this now, guys?
Yeah, we are.
Recommendation together.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just squeezing the last drops out now. I say a couple of points, but it's a Welsh couple because it's three. One, Councillor Bledsoe asked me to raise before he left. He was disappointed that there was confusion over, so this is a procedural recommendation, there's confusion over the report and whether they were strategic projects or not strategic.
Definitely be
so
confusion over that.
Seek a recommendation about that. The second point, and again, it touches on what Councillor Walter touched on, the difficulty in getting shovel ready, you know, getting a feasibility. I've been in meetings, I'm sure we all have, where we've been told, well, we don't even have the money to employ an engineer or a strategist or whoever it may be. I think we need to look again at that. And we are, you know, times are hard, but we are a £450 million authority, and I think we're suffering because we've cut out some of that knowledge and capability to just look at something and come up with even if it's a back of an envelope estimation. I think we've cut too far in that area, and it is hurting us now. So what the answer is, I don't know, even if it's just in recognition of that. And the third thing I think was my disappointment is this sort of not in my department attitude. There are lots of things that I think we could have been discussing, and they should have been on this list. Safety interventions, pavements, crossing points, something like Litchard Cross, for example, which would be strategic. And I think it's disappointing that it was considered to be not in my department, therefore not worthy of discussion in this forum. So we do need to look at being more joined up as well.
Okay, thank you. There's no more indications. We're going to wrap it up there.
Sorry, Chair, can I just throw in
Just for the committee itself. You can.
just to clarify.
I'm going to bring you in, Rachel. That was the idea. Yeah, to sum it up for us, and try to put some sort of sense to it all.
No worries. Thank you, Chair. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, from the discussions just now in terms of conclusions and recommendations, and taking on view, all the points put forward, I think what I'm gathering is that whilst in terms of I agree in terms of the prioritising, we can't reprioritise because it's been talked about what the funding. However, they did mention a review of these projects has been undertaken. So that is surely an ample opportunity to say, well, bringing in the points that you've said about making sure that the projects going forward are fit for purpose. Just because the money's there doesn't mean that it's something that's needed within the Bridgend County Borough Council, for example. And some of these projects, particularly those that date back, a long, long time, things have changed. Everything's, we're in a very, very different situation, for example. Are these projects the right ones that we need to have going forward in, for the future? So I think maybe that could be the recommendation that you might want to consider taking in view on taking on board all those points that that you can look at what is the need when we're saying about look at the need, look at whether there's there's a need for these things to go forward, whether there's a need to fix the problem and to have a comprehensive plan of that. I think they're saying they're looking at reviewing these projects. I think that would make sense, coming forward from the comments that are going forward. Also, I've noted down the points, Councillor Williams, that Councillor Bledsoe asked. I've also noted down his point that he raised during the meeting, which was with regards to in February 23 with the Porthcawl aspect, the mention of the link with the Metrolink and the pile. It was actually responded to in that one, so I will just write to him on that one just to let everyone know. But it did say the Porthcawl Metrolink will provide both modern sustainable bus facilities in Porthcawl. The comments in the committee are noted, however, it will be the commercial bus operators who will plan the routes within the borough. The local authority is in dialogue regularly with these companies. And I've looked at the transcript during the meeting as well. And Jonathan Parsons did say that they weren't actually intrinsically linked, the pile
in the
Park and
2020
Ride.
in the
Yeah.
February meeting.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought-
they weren't intrinsically linked, the pile Park and Ride and the Metrolink. So I have checked on that one. I've also got additional information. I was wondering whether it might be useful when we talk about this, strategic projects, etc. Whether it'd be useful. Quaker's forwarded some information, I know, but maybe I could get a bit of a plan in terms of how all the plans fit together. There was mention of Bridgend local transport plan, the active travel strategy, the metro plan, and then a bit of an idea then where all these projects fit in them. And I think that might be useful then to get for the committee. I hope this.
Councillor Williams, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, just a quick one. If funding becomes available and it would enable several projects to be done individually, there was enough money to do, say, there were 3 which would come under £1 million, say, £1 million each, and there was £1 million available. Would it be possible to put in the recommendation that the projects that have safety issues could be prioritised? Do you think, Chair?
I don't see why not. It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's because they fit this pot of money to a project, don't they? So if they get one, that's the difficulty. Is if there's money to sort of spare, and they can sort of, I don't quite.
Do they have to fit a strategic, a specific project to that? amount of money, or could they say, well, we've got 3 projects that'll suit that?
I don't know. We didn't ask that, did we? So,
No.
John, there's no you know to.
So that's what I'm saying, was if it's possible, say there's 5 million
You'd like to
pounds.
think that their safety would be prioritised, wouldn't you?
Gotta be,
And
isn't it?
you know, we like to think that surely there is a dangerous, problem that they got money, they try to solve that rather than just do one, that helps, is a generic sort of.
Yeah,
I
I won't mention this, but I did attend a meeting where I was told that some of these active travel routes were done for their ease
rather than
the necessity, because they were the easiest ones to do.
That happens as well. Okay, Councillor Clark, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to check with Rachel that the maintenance liability is going to go in as one of the recommendations. And can I say about the park and ride and the metro, I have got to be honest, I have always been under the impression that the park and ride facility that was going to happen at Pyle was linked to the metro system. That people were going to get off the train, they were going to get on or park and, park there and get on the train to go elsewhere, but also to park there to get on a bus to come into Porthcawl. That was always my belief. So I will be looking for reports that I have seen that have implied that.
Yeah, come in, yeah. Rachel.
Thank you. Yes, I've got to be honest. I was of the same understanding. I've got to admit. I will look back myself and do some research on that, Councillor Clark. As I said, I was only referring to the transcript from the February 23 meeting, but I will look back into that further definitely and see.
Okay, thank you. And as long as we're of a single mind, Rachel.
I think that's quite common throughout the committee, Nora, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and the maintenance and liability, I can certainly pick up in terms of the recommendation. Is everyone happy with the proposed recommendation about the review? Because I think that takes a bit of a kind of between everyone's points then, that whilst we understand, in terms of they can't prioritise the projects, however, undertaking a review, it's a case of are the projects fit for purpose now in 2023 and going forward for the future, really. So in that way, again, looking at things like the maintenance and liability, because that will be an ongoing cost for the council, which we weren't in 2007 and 2001. We weren't in this budget situation that we are now.
No.
So I think that needs to be, be looked at when considering reviewing the projects.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What about Ian's point about multiple? If we get a pot of money comes available, it's not set for anything. You can apply for it. Can you do more than one project with that money? And would
sorry.
If there were 3 £1 million projects,
and
£1 million available, could we prioritise the one where there's safety issues?
Got you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I misunderstood a little bit what you said, Ian.
I think it would come down to criteria more than it would the amount, to be honest, when they look at these projects, it's criteria. But I think more you're talking about the active travel routes.
Yeah.
In terms of, if for active travel routes, are we prioritising safety active routes rather than just the amount?
Easy ones, yeah. Prioritise.
So I will follow that up with, if the committee's agreeing, I'll follow that up with Kwaku and with Jonathan, just to get clarification on it before any kind of conclusion is drafted.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we're happy with them recommendations, everybody? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we shall move on to item 5, everybody's favourite, forward work programme. I haven't got it in front of me here now. Yeah, go through it.
Thank you.
Item 5, straight to it.
If I can take you, I'm just looking at the page number. Page 21. So the forward work programme report, and then the attached appendix then, which gives you the future meeting dates and the future meeting items. You'll see the next meeting now is set for January, which obviously is when we have the draft medium-term financial strategy 2024-25 coming to this committee. That's usual since the budget now is coming, the budget settlement is later than it used to be. You'll note as well that the original item actually for this meeting was meant to be the future waste services work stream post 2026. So that was unfortunately postponed from today's item, which is why you had strategic transport projects. And therefore, at the moment, that item is put forward for February 2024, which should be a pre-decision scrutiny item. We are just double checking and waiting forward to work programme meetings that the chair attends with Councillor Spanswick and with the corporate director. We will make sure that the timing is correct for that one and that it's ready. But I know Councillor Spanswick was very keen to get pre-decision from the Scrutiny Committee on this.
On the February meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then in terms of going forward, the April item is Levelling Up Fund, Porthcourt Pavilion and the Shared Prosperity Fund. If you want to reprioritise any of these items, as I said, going forward on that, or if you think already there's stuff that you need to prioritise for the meeting following that, I know we don't have the dates, but that's when the calendar of meetings is approved at the AGM. Please highlight those. The only thing I will need to highlight at the moment with this committee is we are going to be under a lot of pressure going forward in the scrutiny team, particularly resources wise. I can follow that up with you all at a different time, but we really need to, as a committee, therefore, I can't see that we're going to be able to have many special meetings or anything like that. And I think in terms of going forward, based on the budget as well, that the committees are going to be asked to really prioritise their scrutiny items going forward and pick up those big ticket items that maybe are coming up in the performance reports, in the budget reports. Again, if there's stuff coming through from the budget this year that you pick up on in your January meeting, you may really want to consider some of those items, maybe over some of them you might have already down there. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Williams, please.
You may know what I'm going to ask.
Sorry?
You may know what I'm going to ask because I emailed about it, you about it before.
I did ask. Which one? There was one we had a email. I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah,
Refresh your memory.
When we scrutinised the waste contract or the future waste provision, could we have a copy of the contract in advance, or at least in the reports pack? We don't need rates in there, but certainly
unredacted to as best it can be.
I mean, for example, the current contract has penalty points related to financial penalty. I would like to see that if such a thing exists, but clearly we don't need to see actual rates because that would be commercially sensitive.
Yeah, that's right. I knew there was one. I asked Rachel about it this afternoon, didn't I? And I couldn't remember.
I'll follow that up with Meryl, and because I said I'm not up to speed on that one, but I will certainly follow it up with Meryl and find out where we are with that one and what's
that's the 2020, the February meeting we're talking about then, aren't we? Yeah.
Okay. It would depend in terms of what could come forward to the committee, obviously, and we'd have to check that with legal and with the corporate director.
That's what.
And whether there'd be something. Would members be happy with an information report outside of the committee if that was what they wanted? No? They wanted in committee?
It's what Martin asked way back. You said in the email, I think, about timescales to get it in because it takes so long to go through legal and redactions and all the rest of it to give it time. That was why I'm sure that was in the email, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to bang on about it. It's just I'd rather see the contract than someone's interpretation of it because.
That's fine.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll follow that up.
Okay. Where are we? So that's. We're all happy with that. Okay. Item 6. Urgent items. I have no urgent items, so I shall say the meeting is closed and the time is 18:36. Thank you for attendance, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you, Chair.